The Next Level is a group of theater geeks playing Dungeons and Dragons. Here is your Dungeon Master, Rob Card.
Hello, and welcome to The Next Level. This is a recap of our sixth episode, which we have called A Friend in Mead. The characters have finally earned a well-deserved rest after their adventures so far, and as they bed down that night, there's some conversations around between Torok and Jacob around Torok's past. Jacob summons some interesting sense for the Dragonborn, and Torok is rather shocked that he has some memories of the sort of dark period in his life where there's things that before now he hadn't recalled at all. Jacob himself has some interesting dreams that night, running around carefree as a boy, finding some ancient ruins in the woods near his village, and running into the half-elf girl that's appeared a couple times in his memories, called Mridu. They play around for a little bit, but when Jacob goes to leave the ruins, she says that she can't leave, that this is her home. Jacob wakes up feeling a little bit more sort of rested and sort of lighthearted from that sort of childhood memory. And everyone gets going the next day, making their way through the Shadow Forest and eventually out of the Shadow Forest by the end of the day. However, before that, Leon does a bit more searching around for how people feel about the war effort. Not getting much from the characters and a little bit from those that they've rescued from the dome as well. There's a bit of a party at the end of the day. Kildy brings back a deer and a boar from her hunt, which is more than enough food for the large party. And it's found that the skin of mead that they found in the dome seems to go a lot farther than it should, and everyone gets a nice glow on about them as the party gets further into the night. Even Leon takes a sip and gets rather heavily drunk, divulging some interesting information about their past. The next day is mostly slow day. People wake up a little bit late, feeling a little rough in the head, and causes them to have to travel a little further, a little later into the day that night as well. But on their third day out, they are finally making their way back into the city. Leon has been trying to convince the party and some others that perhaps they should be going back into the forest to help cleanse it of this evil. Alphonse is definitely interested in that. That's probably where Alphonse was going to be going anyway. Alphonse believes that this evil, or one possible source for this evil, is the Shadow Weaver, who's one of the high gods, one of the exoteric gods. And that could be potentially a problem, but they're hoping that the sort of shadow-cloaked figure that Alphonse had seen was just a minion, perhaps, of that god, and not the god themselves. At the end of the day, they do arrive back in Silver Lake. Leon goes to the House of Wands to buy some spell components. Gildy gets the payment from the merchant, who's very glad to see his nephew recovered. And brings the pay back to the characters, so everyone gets their cut. Jacob's sister is performing at the Minstrel's Muse, and they make some plans to meet up the next day. And Talon has found a couple interesting things. The Egg of Blessing, which he discovered, was investigated on their way home, and now they have a sense for what that can do. And Talon also at this point brings out the bag of ancient copper coins that he'd found, and they're valued at definitely worth more than sort of the copper would suggest, but potentially not. It depends who they sell them to. Everyone relaxes with a meal and a drink, and Leon and Jacob talk magic and discover a little bit more about how Jacob's magic works. And then everyone retires for the evening and is enjoying sort of the being home in a safe place in a bed and looking forward to where they're going to go next, which is potentially back to the Shadow Forest, but probably not before they spend at least a little bit of time researching and resting in the city. Thank you, and we'll see you next time on The Next Level.